I've just been told that it's the first meeting after the Ghost, so welcome to the Scrutiny Committee. Thanks. Okay. Can I ask for any declarations of interest? No? Any matters of agency? No? There are no items of exempt business to consider on the agenda. Okay, so we'll go on to agenda item 2, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. The minutes of the last Scrutiny Committee on the 12th of January were submitted for approval. Can we please be approved? Okay. Now, I've been asked by Councillor Byron the agenda item 4, which is going to present and answer questions for. Can we put the agenda item 4 on first? Is that okay? Okay. So, I'm assuming we've all read 4. We all know what it's about. It's about scrutiny of outside bodies. So, Les, if you want to present, please away.
The sky is it's a good hangover. As we look after the grandchildren on Tuesday afternoon, and I want to go back and be devastated. We ripped apart and punched and what? That would you want? So.
I think you're turning it off, Les. I think we'll all be able to hear you. It's a small room.
Yes, so I've had circulated what came this week. I just thought I saw it in my inbox. It's the parliamentary bulletin. I thought that would be interesting. It's actually nothing on the specifically about fire, but this is all sorts of public issues which will impact the fire service. And I also asked for a copy of I just asked how much do we pay as a subscription, and it's set out there. The VAT is reclaimed, so you can see the context of what it is. Whilst I know that you're going to be scrutinising a wider group of outside bodies, what colleagues and I do is the LGA, and the LGA basically I consider to be our embassy in London. Really, we concentrate on Merseyside and delivery, and I know we are the national coordinator and service level authority, but for a wide range of things. So pensions, the NJC, the LGA coordinate and host the NJC. The NJC is a National Joint Council. It's a slightly different membership, but is drawn from the members of fire at the LGA. And it also has a group of people who look after emerging legislation, such as the Fire Safety Act, which went through recently, high rise, cladding, all that other stuff, the Building Safety Agency. Well, there's been loads of legislation recently that affects the fire service, which the LGA have functional experts who deal with, and not only that, but they actually lobby and inform members of the select committees in Parliament, both chambers, on legislation questions and issues that are going through. I don't think we could work without them. Without some sort of setup like that, we'd have to replicate it somehow amongst ourselves as individual fire authorities, 46 fire authorities in the country. There was a time when fire or metropolitan authorities were classed as a level 1 subscription, and that would be about £40,000–50,000 a year. But over austerity, the early years, everybody in the LGA, principal authorities as well, chipped up and said, no, we can't afford this level. And an awful lot of staff at the LGA did have to go. And there was a substantial settling down. So we used to have 4 full-time dedicated staff at the LGA just working on fire issues. now we have there's a shared responsibility at the LGA. We share officers, although there's one officer who just does pensions. There was one officer who we collectively paid for, who lobbied government on the finance settlement. That we stopped doing that now, but up until last year, say, we were lobbying on the financial settlement all the time. And then we have one officer who is an absolute expert on the fire safety bill and the emerging fire safety high-rise and so forth legislation. He lives on the move, as it happens, but he works for the LGA and is almost full-time dealing with that agenda post-Grenfell. And he feeds into the meetings of the LGA. We have the Fire Commission, which we, members, I think Leslie, you're a member of that, and we're these members, there's a political sort of settlement and there's balance and so forth. People can go. Recently, of course, everything's been online. You can go, but it's mostly online. But underneath that, in a way, then there's the Fire Services Management Committee, which is 14 members, drawn from the three parties for it, because the independents have a section of the LGA, so it's the division amongst four, and it is the deliberative decision-making body that will spend money on behalf of the fire service, make decisions on behalf of the fire service, and act as the national leadership for the fire service. And there's not a lot that we disagree amongst. There's pretty much in all of those four groupings a clear agenda that we pursue. There are some minor issues, but most of the politics is harmonised at the FSMC. And underneath that again, then there is the NJC, which would have a mixture of about 12 members as well, again, politically drawn from the political groupings, and they meet at a different schedule. 5 meetings a year of the FSMC, 3 meetings a year of the Commission. One of those is at the Fire Conference. And the Fire Conference, which was in March, is the set piece really. A lot of coordination, a lot of training, a lot of exhibition of new and emerging technology, systems, a lot of talking about, culture. This was the big issue, and the report into the Metropolitan Police on misogyny, just unacceptable behaviour, and how that's going to feed through into the fire service, about procurement, about high-rise, the Building and Safety Act, a large amount of discussion about that. So, I have to answer any questions, but that's a sort of a feeling, a taste, if you like, of what the NJC does. Every fire authority is in membership now. There was a period of time when a couple of them pulled out, but the work is so important to the national lobbying picture on a lot of this legislation that the level of subscription has come down so much from what it was that every fire authority is now in membership and play a role. It's an organisation which is respected within the leadership of fire, because the officers are knowledgeable, and there is no fractionalism and party politics there. It's a very focused committee, the FSMC and the Commission, really, on the issues for the fire service. So that's my sort of flavour of the LGA. I think it is fundamental to what we do here, and we play a very leading role. Dave and Lyndon and Leslie know, we go to every single meeting. We are, 2 penneth in. London would always be there. So it's important that there's regional representation. And we go down, we make our presence felt we make our views and opinions, and we're well respected for it. So happy to answer any questions that members may have.
Okay, but before we get to that, have you got anything to add to it, David? I mean, I think that's not from all that. All I was going to say is all the report together after, so.
I was going to say, well, that aspect of the LGA, I've got some officers in the room to talk to the other outside bodies. If there's no questions specifically to the LGA, on the next report we've got the North West Employees Organisation. At the AGM, it was actually Councillor Roberts who was appointed to be the member representative. I think we've identified through feedback to say Councillor Roberts hasn't been invited to any of the specific meetings. We need to identify what that process is, but I do know we've had a lot of engagement from officer level, and the Director of POD, Nick Murnock, has attended today to talk to members and give them a brief overview about what is authority we get out of our membership of the North West Employees.
Okay, thank you. Just a brief overview, members. North West Employers has been an entity for many, many years. We've certainly been members of it since the good 20 years I've been in the fire service, and prior to that, when I was employed by staff and council, we utilised them again. Very well respected and quite well utilised. It's changed its format a little bit over the years and reinvented itself quite productively, actually. So what it provides is the overarching elements is around it sorts the coordination of the national pay awards for the likes of Green Book Pay, craft workers, those kind of elements. It ensures that there are regular meetings of which the nominated council would attend those meetings to provide feedback. It looks at authority affordability, and it ensures that all the other elements are taken into account before a percentile figure is recommended for a national agreement. So it plays quite a big role in that, and members would have a role in that particular area. There are national meetings just to look at initiatives, work issues, challenges within the Northwest area that predominantly local government is experiencing, and looking at options for us to deal with it, share information, and from that a number of collaboration options come out from that. And it provides a great degree of quality, quite often free and generally subsidised training, so it enables us to utilise their services for some basic end level, which is staff's awarenesses of disciplines, grievances, T's and C's, through to a number of initiatives around succession planning and some of the high-end strategical delivery that we have to do. So again, it provides training within the fee that we pay at quite a discounted rate. It also provides a consultancy service, which we've utilised last year to work with us when we looked at the hybrid scheme that members approved towards the end of last year. They came in and gave us a background to what else was going on within the Northwest, and on that basis enables us to balance our response to get something that we feel is now appropriate and has proven quite popular with our staff. And we're currently working with them to look at retention issues. We're still losing a number of Green Book staff at certain levels, so we need to look at how and why and what we do. And again, their advice in relation to what is going on within the Northwest has been quite invaluable. So I would certainly recommend to you that continued membership is very beneficial, and for the price we pay, I would recommend we continue.
Thank you for that. Any other yes?
Thank you. I was quite concerned when I did read that Councillor Roberts was appointed, but that was officer's time was being taken up by that. And I've just heard you say that Councillor Roberts hasn't actually been invited. What is the reason?
For the different reasons. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure why he's not had any communication.
Thank you. I think the Northwest employers are based in Manchester, and I think as Bernard says, it's changed really from the set piece quarterly, half-yearly meetings. Everyone goes up to Manchester and discusses what. So then we moved online under the pandemic, and then it was pretty much a quick realization. What's it all about? Why are we having these? What are we discussing? For start, we are in Green Book, Purple Book, and others, but most of our employees are Grey Book firefighters. for which we have an NJC, and we have excellent advisors at the NJC who come all the way from Merseyside, probably on the train. So I think the regional employers has changed, and the need for these set-piece meetings has fallen by the wayside. The work is still going on. To my experience of the North West employers, the best thing that they give us is training and also a sounding base to say, well, we're trying to do this, what do you think? And they've got a wider experience of other employers, and they work with all of our councils as well. But I think the reason that they're not invited is because I'm going to guess that these regional level meetings aren't happening anymore.
One of the aspects we wanted to take away from Colleen and this from Councillor Roberts is to make contact with them and see what opportunities there are for members in anticipation for the AGM that would be able to clarify that process.
Thank you. Yeah, just to add to it, I generally think it might be something as simplistic as the details that North West employers hold in relation to who is their point of contact. They are slightly automated, as Councillor Byron says, to the minimal meetings that happen. So if they have an old email address or such, that is what they'll replicate. What I'll do is I'll take an action if it's acceptable, and I'll make sure that Councillor Roberts' details are provided to North West employers. And certainly when I get my invite to any pay meeting, etc., I'll ensure Councillor Roberts gets the invite as well.
Okay,
Just a thought, yeah, so whoever gets the information at office level, at the time being, can they just forward it on to Councillor Roberts, just to make sure that he's aware of the agenda?
yes,
So
I'll be.
we can do that, it's just an easier sort of way forward. Just on the LGA, what there's alluded to there, I think for us, it's a voice at a national level. And we've used that to greatly to our advantage in the past. And it's something that we've held in high esteem from some quarters, not everybody, because of our input really at a national level. Because when we've been there, we haven't been like some people have just sat back and listened to what's going on. We've had an active input and involvement into the discussions at a national level. And some of the things what we've done is challenged government ministers, whether they've attended, and even shadow ministers. And, we get it through the chief five councillors as well, that they come to a presentation. And it's sharing that good practice and bringing it back to us locally and how that benefits us. But also, we go down there and we tell sing the praises of what goes on there in Merseyside. So there's a bit of jealousy there as well. Some authorities across the whole of the country, because the way the authorities change over the years and progressed to be now the leading fire and rescue service in the country. And we always say that we'll remind them of that, because they don't like them. But for us, it's a platform that we should use. And we shouldn't continue with that involvement, because, as we go forward, there's a lot going on, isn't there? And that's the forum where we need to raise our concerns. And it does generally have all party consensus, because, the fire and rescue family type of thing, or whatever political persuasion, I generally think about the same thing. The people that who are committed to the fire and rescue service and not using it as a political platform. So when we've been down there, it's been different from other environments where you go to certain conferences or certain meetings under that sort of political sort of dogfighting. When we go down there, we can speak with one voice, which is good. And there's been the opportunity of setting up like task and finish groups as well, where you can delve into more detail about certain things that are going on nationally. And again, as a service and minister, we've had an input into that. And it's something that we should continue, because it's a brilliant platform for us. And as we go forward, we'll do the best from
Yes. I remember going down to the sprinkler systems on new build now. We have to change legislation to do that, and I know it's expensive, but it needs to be done in this country, like it is in Scotland and Wales. And we worked really hard on that, but we couldn't get it through, but maybe the local government will.
Okay. Are there any other questions or observations? No. So can we agree the recommendation?
But there's still got a couple more outside
go on.
bodies to go. The North West Fire and Rescue Advisory Forum is a collaboration forum between all the North West Fire and Rescue Services. Councillor Byron may wish to talk to this. I think you've had the most involvement of it. I don't believe it's met in more recent times, and that may well be a recommendation out of today, whether they want to push to reignite that forum or not. But I'll let Councillor Byron speak of his experience.
I mean, it's the same with, you may have on the list there, Association of Metropolitan Fire Authorities. There was a time, you know, when we needed a voice for metropolitans, we needed a voice for the Northwest. And in the Northwest, Manchester has basically pulled out because it doesn't have a fire authority. They recently appointed a new mayoral lead, and I made contact with her earlier in the year, and I said, leave this after the elections and we'll see what we can do, invite you here, I'll come to you, whatever. But because Manchester pulled out, it really sort of wobbled the Northwest setup. Then along came the pandemic, we had a couple of meetings online, and broadly speaking, the Northwest individual agenda has diminished. I mean, the agenda is now about national funding, national legislation, you know, what's going to happen when the white paper comes through, what effect that will have, you know, the PCC, the regional MER, that type of thing, and what effect that. So really the USP for the Northwest and the USP for the metropolitans has changed. So I think it would be reasonable to say that those two organisations haven't been collapsed, but they've been put on ice for the time being. They've been just put on in abeyance. And if there's something happens in the agenda where we need to reactivate either the Northwest Forum or the Metropolitan Forum, we can do that. The Metropolitans used to meet as a side issue, a side meeting at the LGA National Conference, but we haven't had to do it for several years because there was a time when the Metropolitans wanted to lobby for a separate deal, a better deal for metropolitan authorities. At the moment, the whole issue of lobbying for more money and funding and so forth is either pointless or, you know, we know it would be of no successful consequence. So the whole issue of lobbying independently has gone by the board. But I would think just freeze them for the time being.
Next up,
Just the next one, sorry, just because obviously I declared it when it was first discussed, is that I'm from my employees for a platform. If you need me to recuse myself in terms of any discussion that may happen here, I'm happy to do so. So I just wanted to clear that apologies. I was late to the
Whatever you feel comfortable in. I don't have a problem with you staying here as long as you don't contribute politically. However you want.
and it's not a decision making, so it's fine. This is who's actually been invited to talk today is the area manager of protection, Kevin Longshaw. The report actually details what the growth platform is. We do pay a membership fee of $4,700 for that, but it's unlike some of the others. This is not member representation, it's officer representation. And as time has moved on, obviously the individuals changed, but Kevin's can sort of give a bit of scope to members as to what the authority agreed on it.
I better make sure I've got the story straight then, given present company. So, good afternoon, everybody. Kevin Longshaw, Head of Protection. As Ree's just mentioned, obviously the forum itself was primarily, formerly the local enterprise partnership, set up to sort of coordinate and grow business in a supportive, consultative manner, which very much fits in with the ethos of the authority around, whilst we acknowledge our role as the enforcing authority for the fire and safety order, we see our role within protection as being engagement, providing guidance, providing support, providing fire safety advice, etc., to our business communities for obvious reasons, because primarily we're looking to keep communities safer. And whilst I'm aware that that's, you know, endorsed within our leadership message, it still doesn't make it any less relevant. So it's very much the ethos by which we operate within the protection department. We've been a representative on the forum for a number of years now. I haven't had the pleasure personally of attending one of the meetings as yet. As Reeves mentioned, the representative officer has changed for various different reasons over the years. I've spoken with previous incumbents who has assured me that my details have been passed on, so I'll certainly be attending future meetings. Practically, it offers some real advantages to the authority in regards to we have a very open forum for us to be able to communicate with Liverpool City Region colleagues around ongoing issues or targeted areas of business that we're focusing in on from a fire safety perspective, particularly in light of some of the comments that Councillor Byron mentioned about forthcoming or the new legislation around Building Safety Act and the role of the Building Safety Regulator within the Health and Safety Executive. The built environment now, as we know, is evolving, and there's a lot of scrutiny, rightly so, off the back of the Grenfell incident. We believe that relationship with the Building Safety Regulator will be a key relationship moving forward. That working hand in glove with the Liverpool City Region, I think, can only be a positive in regards to accessibility around information around the gateway processes within the Building Safety Act, as an example. Will prove very beneficial in us having like an early heads up on any potential issues that we could hopefully stave off well ahead of time without having to go down the enforcement and prosecution routes, which are obviously time consuming and not good for the businesses involved for obvious reasons. As I say, it also gives us the opportunity to share our learning with the Liverpool City Region around engagements and enforcements if we do need to go that route. So we've got an open and transparent forum to be able to feed that in to the group as well. And we've also been able to plug into, obviously, Chamber of Commerce and other local authorities, again, across Merseyside more broadly, to try and extol this as an exemplar model across the region. If I can give you one specific example of a very tangible, positive outcome, and hopefully this will sort of hammer the message home. I'm mindful of rambling maybe a little bit. So post-Grenfell, there was a specific project set up called the Building Risk Review, which required scrutiny of all high-rise premises across Merseyside and indeed across the entire UK. Because of the partnership that we had with the local authority, with the growth platform, we as Merseyside Fire Rescue Authority were the only service in the country that practically physically went into every single high-rise premises within Merseyside to carry out audits, inspections, remedial measures, etc., etc. And that was very much extolled by the NFCC as exemplar, positive, and the way to do it. That's not to sound critical of other fire authorities who weren't able to do that, but we saw that as a priority and a must do. And it was the relationship that we had with partners to enable us to do that, to get access to responsible persons, create all the necessary engagements that needed to be done in order to get that work done. I will stop there and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
It's just and certainly what we contribute to the growth platform. Council drives that before actually happens to pay a membership. Because they need us more than we need them in that sense. And I think, maybe it's a question that needs to be asked, because really what do we benefit from it? I know you say about the exchange of information and having good practice, but really it's us telling them about good practice that we have achieved and the lessons that we've learned and the implemented legislation that's going forward in the future. So, it's just why we're paying for something.
Yeah, I mean, I take the point. I suppose, putting it in a pensions and pension tax perspective, if you weigh up the cost of subscription to the group, which is 4,500 to 4,700 last year, the cost to us as an authority to, in the absence of information that we can get through that forum, which may lead us then to have to go down maybe an enforcement and prosecution route with a particular responsible person in the premises, for example, the cost to go down an enforcement and prosecution route due to time, engagement with solicitors, barristers, etc., would far outweigh that just for one prosecution. So the access to the information for the cost of 4,700, from my perspective personally, I believe is money well spent. Just because of the other, I'll not say inside information because it's not inside information, but early access to lots of information. I will favour that way.
For that way.
So certainly, absolutely, and reputationally as well. It's great that we have a seat around that forum and have done for them.
And the last body, what's down on the report is Merseyside Community Safety Partnership, Safe Merseyside Partnership. It's a little misleading from what I gathered at this point. When preparing for this report, I've spoken with colleagues and officers who shared that doesn't really exist in that format. So, which also explains when,
I'm not going to speak to that, because I was attending for that on the law.
I've also said we've also got Fanny here, who's going to do a bit of a presentation of what the current now looks like. It's broken.
Okay, well, I'll still roll forward. I know I'll do it if I need to.
I'll start off the presentation.
This is yours, isn't it?
Yeah. Thanks, Rita.
Do you want to use the clicker?
Yeah. Thank you.
Go.
So afternoon, members. I was just asked to come and give a quick update. So community safety partnerships, they sit under community safety, which I'm the lead for in prevention. So in each local authority, council area, the statutory partnerships called community safety partnerships. They bring together local organisations with the shared goals of reducing crime and the fear of crime, antisocial behaviour, alcohol and drug misuse, and reducing reoffending. So 5 CSPs, which we have a dedicated officer to attend each of them. Community safety partnerships are made up of representatives from the police, local authorities, fire and rescue authorities, health and probation services. So these are all the responsible authorities. Responsible authorities work together to protect the local communities from crime and try to help people safe in their community and in their homes. So just an overview of Merseyside as it is. We've got Wirral, St Helens, Sefton and Knowsley, obviously, Liverpool. Mark Camborne chairs the Wirral. We've got Councillor Anthony Burns, who does St Helens, Councillor Trish Hardy, Sefton, Andrew Donaldson in Knowsley, and Zoe Thornton is the Chief Super who's just gone into Liverpool, who will be chairing it going forward. Just replaced Diane Pownall, who's just retired from the police. So Zoe's new, and so we'll be taking over quite shortly. So with that, so from our point of view, who sits on each of them CSPs, we've got myself. I sit on the Liverpool one, which is known as City Safe, and I'm just going to give a quick overview of City Safe in a minute and just show you how complex it can be. We've got St Helens, Station Manager Joe Cunliffe, Knowsley, Station Manager Darren Guest, Sefton, Station Manager Ruth Balla-Wilson, and Wirral, Station Manager Kev Hollis. We've a couple of new officers into the team, but they quite quickly pick up the reins and they quite quickly get themselves embedded within that community safety partnership, so we can get the most out of it. And we can then feed that back into our teams. So whether it's through IIT or whether it's through the arson team, and then we can put that back out to the crews. So this is the City Safe Board, which I sit on, meets quarterly, and on an annual basis, I have to go in and do a report, and I think I'm due in June. So I have to go in as the chair, as you can see on the far side there. I'm the chair of the ASB strategy group. So we meet once every quarter, and on an annual basis, I have to pull together to say what that group's done and what it's achieved. I have to stand in front of the committee, in front of the board, and then take any questions and justify the work we've done for that year. But as you can see, it's quite complex across. We have disarm, which very challenging for me as a team, because I have to have my IIT officers aligned to disarm with myself. So I sit on disarm over the major meeting, and then we have 4 disarms across the Liverpool district, and that's quite challenging. So I have to make sure that that information is coming back into one repository. So examples of what we get from the CSP. So obviously the serious violence duty contributes towards that, gives us direct access at key times to partners when support's needed. So bonfire period, example, Liverpool City Council fund the tipper trucks for us. So all of the CSPs do. But I get the funding for that. I get any funding in relation to street intervention. You know, we receive a significant amount, and any funding bits I put in, I'm always fully supported. It links us into the VRP. The VRP is very embedded within the CSP in Liverpool, so it's that relationship building and keeping everybody informed of how we're going. Funding from the CSPs for the bonfire period, as I say, youth engagement. I work closely with Kev Johnson, who's the head of youth engagements, to make sure that there's any funding streams that we can tap into. We're able to do that. Provides partners with a referral pathway for young people into Prince's Trust. We have struggled over the years in terms of numbers. Now we're starting to get that into the CSPs to say, you know, we've got spaces. Can you nominate young people to come in for that? We've been instrumental in other campaigns organised by partners. We got high praise for the issue at the Women's Hospital in relation to the community tensions that created in that area. You know, we have to go in there and reassure the people. Fire service was seen as the lead for that at the time. And then we just recently had Olivia Pratt-Corbell incident last year. I led for Clear Hole Build. So Clear Hole Build is the response now from police. So it's come in from London, and it's basically, you know, go in, clear the area, get rid of the bad guys and, you know, bad women, hold it, put the confidence back into that area, and then we build it. So we've done it as an authority. We've put £3,000 into that. So basically, they collect a lot of money for the build from partners. So police put in health, probation, and then you go to like the housing associations and anybody else in the area. So McDonald's will put into that, KFC who are in that area, and in that pot is then builds that community. So if you've got a boxing club and it needs, you know, refurbishment, they'll tap into that one fund. So rather than us all trying to fix bits, we're working as one partnership to do the Clear Hole Build. That's now moved over to the Whittle, so it's going into the Wood Church, I believe, and we're going into Sefton around there. So we've donated into that to play our part with trying to build the communities. Allows us to promote our campaigns directly into the local authorities and the partners. So we just started our monthly campaigns where we're seeing 5 appliances, our team of prevention staff, and hopefully now we'll get the partners to come and support them and make sure that they're 12, you know, really strong campaigns each month, 2 in each local authority to start off with, and then what we do is we carry in a couple should we need to respond to something like the Women's Hospital or something like the Olivia incident. Membership of the CSPs opens up access for the groups, so we sit on the problem-solving groups, ASB groups. We've got the nighttime economy group, which is in Liverpool City Centre at the moment. So it just gives us that head start of being involved and influencing and doing our bit around some of them groups, and then provides links into the PCC office. We've also sit on City Safe, so you know we have good connections there. And I think that's it. I just thought it was a quick overview, which was asked to present. I'm happy for any questions.
I just want to, if you don't break down of the membership, I just thought some LAs are represented by those that are elected, others have got officer representation. Is there something in the terms of reference that determines that, or is that, I'm just trying to understand why some have elected representatives and others have officers?
Sorry, yeah, I can answer that. Police Safety Partnership is a statutory group, so we must pretend that as buyer. So in each of the local authorities, each local authority has a community safety partnership. What you've seen there, I think, is just the chair. So the local authority we represented, it's just the chair was the police officer. I think that's the answer to your questions today, weren't they?
Well, yeah, no, because we're all represented by Mark Campbell, so that Mark Campbell's an officer, and obviously Sefton's Trish Harvey. So it's just that. I was just trying to understand sort of.
Yeah, so the attendance will be there. I think those individuals are just chairs.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think they can nominate a councillor or they can nominate a lead officer.
Yeah.
And I think it's just around that availability of, you know, when there's change and the change comes, but the other lead officer, so Andrew Donaldson is like the Knowsley, got Jill Summers, who shares with Jenny Ewells for Liverpool, Mark Campbell, so on. They're the lead officer, if you like, they're the community safety lead, and then they might just discharge it to a councillor to chair.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want me to come in on the safety partnership? Okay, so to add to that, so they've been in existence for a long time. When the PCC was introduced into Merseyside under Jane Kennedy, I attended what was the Safer Merseyside Partnership, I think, to make meetings in groups, but I think that's what that's referring to, and that was an officer and a member of the authority to attend, and I think that was changed. At the point in time, as COVID hit and as Jane Kennedy was going to the end of her tenure as the PCC, and memory serves me, I think she then got re-engaged for 12 months because of, I'm pretty sure it was around COVID. That meeting kind of stopped, and when Emily Spudle took the new role, I think it changed. I stopped attending that. Chief officer now attends the new version of that. I suspect it's still called Safer Merseyside Partnership, and I'm unsure whether that authority representation is being. I've attended one of those meetings with the chief and all the local authority chief execs attend. The chief constable and obviously chief officer. I went in Phil's stead, but in my recollection, I can't recall in that meeting there being council representation in that. So I'd have to check, but the confusion there, they're two distinctly different things. The CSPs, as Fran has just described, have been going for a long time. Their statutory role, the Safer Merseyside Partnership, is bringing on the chief executives. But at the time when Jane Kennedy was doing it, for sure it was a senior manager from the service and the council to go along, which I think is the confusion, which I think you've probably been allocated in that.
For someone that wouldn't attend, and there was someone else that one.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's a long time ago.
Yeah, so I think what we'll probably have to do is check on the
We can
terms of
reach out,
reference for that.
to that group and to the PCC.
But that's now the chief who attends that particular meeting with Emily Spudle. So I don't know, probably muddy the waters there a little bit, but certainly it was myself and a member of the authority previously, but I'd probably finished just about the start of COVID, and it didn't pick up again, obviously with the change in the PCC. So, okay. So I'll come back to you on
Is there any other questions or recommendations?
sorry.
At the last meeting, when at the end of the meeting, and people were asking questions what they wanted of this report, somebody did say that we wanted the fire authority to actually sit on the combined authority. Now I've thought about that and I'm going to agree with it.
Wanted the fire authority to sit on a combined authority?
That was one of the recommendations that come out of it, and I thought, this sounds to me too much like Manchester.
Yeah, well, Chair, I mean,
Say something about it.
I mean, we've had a discussion with Steve Rotherham, and at the time, Joe and various others about the representation of the setup of the combined authority. And they were very focused that it would just be the 6 districts and nobody else. They form the transport authority as well, and there is the waste authority, which is basically under them directly as well. And so it was Jane Kennedy who said to them, well, what about the police? Which is, in budgetary terms, it's as big as Knowsley, you know, in budgetary terms, and staffing and so forth. But they said, well, yeah, this isn't, the combined authority is not about police or fire. The combined authority is about the economic, social management of Merseyside and the interrelationship between the 5 or 6 districts in an economic way. So it was agreed that Jane Kennedy would attend when there was something on the agenda to discuss police. She never attended otherwise. And equally, it was said that if there should be something of relevance to the fire service, we would be invited. And we have been, both Phil and I, more recently, that was before the pandemic, to be fair, had been asked to come to discuss issues with the combined authority, because there was something on their agenda of relevance to fire. But I think that's the way it's been left, that there's very, very little on their agenda which is unique to either police or fire. And so we just don't attend. But should there be something on the agenda, we would have a separate invitation.
Yeah, I haven't got a problem with that, Charlie, because the way it was said in that meeting, the last scrutiny meeting, they said they think we should sit on the combined authority. So that's, I accept that.
Yeah, and it's not something that we've definitely not put forward today, or well, that would have to be something considered by the full.
It would never work.
And
We'd
it
never agree
wouldn't
to
be
it.
for us
Never
to
agree to it.
determine.
I just wanted through you, Chair, it's just, I agree, because obviously those that have voting rights on the combined authority are the leaders of the different constitutional authorities. So the structure of it doesn't seem appropriate. We're absolutely correct that the Police and Crime Commission can go into those meetings and can attend, and there's a lot of learning to be had, and especially if that agenda item has cross-reference. So completely agree with what's been said.
I think as the combined authority is sort of developed over the years, I think the position of the fire and rescue service, it's an independent authority, standalone authority, so it should have that sort of arm's length, approach. And it should be right that its only should go as and when required, basically. The other thing is that we may be at occasions where the chief or the chair needs to get briefings, private briefings to the leaders of the local authorities, budgetary times or things like that, just to give them a heads up about what the thinking is of the authority and any possible increase in council tax and will impact them like that. But being a member, at one stage I thought it might have been a good thing, but now I'm the same as Linda. I wouldn't agree to us being part of the combined authority. I think we're better placed where we are at the moment. I think that should be the answer in that sense. I think we should ensure that the authority's position is clear, that current arrangements, status quo.
I mean, I'm not sure whether the Scrutiny Committee would have any sway on that anyway, in terms of what you're actually saying, Dave. Well, I totally agree with you. It's certainly, if anybody or any officer brought this up, I think both yourself and Les and Linda have made it quite clear now that our standpoint, what our standpoint is. And that is the status quo now, as far as I'm aware. So I don't think you necessarily need a minute that we agree with it as a scrutiny committee, but it's certainly in the minutes now. It's in our minutes now anyway. Sorry, man.
Absolutely right. We politically and constitutionally belong to the city and the 4 districts, not the 6. The combined authority has a completely different role. But I do speak with Emily, of course, as a member of this authority. I speak to her very, very regularly. That's a separate thing entirely. Steve and the other leaders, we brief all the time, and the MPs, and so forth. But I think for information of the subcommittee, there is going to be, the government still say there's going to be a white paper which will deal with fire and the constitutional position of fire. Whether that ever happens under this parliament, I don't think it will actually. I think time will run out. But at the last Fire Services Management Committee, it was almost like everybody sat down the table and said, look, we need this white paper to deal with a lot of the stuff collectively for fire, including a college of fire and other things like that. And the whole issue of the constitutional, when the PCCs or the regions take us over, is becoming a problematical smokescreen. It's better just to drop. Now that is interesting. That was coming from Conservative colleagues, one of whom is a PCC in the south of England, and police and fire commissioner. And he was saying, it's best just to drop this because it's going nowhere. And there's so much in the white paper that we do need. And everything will just be about whether the PCCs take us over, and that's not supported. Simply not supported. And so a white paper will emerge, and we, as this committee, I would recommend, should be looking all over that and the implications for it in due course.
Okay. Take that on board. Are there any other observations on that? Can I just say something? We have scrutinised, obviously, we've had people who have spoken on all of the five outside doors, of the 4 or 5. I do have a problem with the growth platform one, and it does seem that we are providing a service, shall we say, in some ways. Can I just ask if you could possibly, if the officers could possibly give us a bit more information on this, on what benefits we do get, if that would be okay, just a paper that you can give to all the members of the Scrutiny Committee. Is that okay with everybody? Is that okay now with the recommendations?
If I may just add, Chairman, I mean, this body and others under the region, the local, the Learning and Skills Council and various other groups like that. So business sector, education sector and various other things were brought together. It's not really the city region. It's like a subset of the city region. So this, historically, when it's a Learning and Skills Council on things, they needed a secretariat, and the way to fund the secretariat staffing was for the component organisations to put some money together. In our case, 400,000. In the other cases, I don't know. But that's the only reason that there is a subscription here is because historically there were some staffing costs that were not going to be picked up by the city region, but would have been picked up by this subset organisation. We said that we would be part of it and that we would chip in just to cover the costs, basically.
Right.
We'll provide that information and we'll also present to the NGM some more detail about on that to consider their membership.
Okay. Thank you. So can we agree the recommendations? We should set up page 17. Okay. I think you've got
If I get back to the grandkids now, yes.
Thanks very much. Okay.
See you all, good luck with the elections and see you again.
Nice to meet you.
No, you can have that. Yeah. I'm not going to talk you through this as it happens. I'm going to introduce it. I've got some very able people who've been involved with this who are going to talk to it. So I've got Deb and Stuart and perhaps Anthony.
Yeah, I'll speak to you.
So Stuart, head of the States.
I've turned the mic off. You've got a loud enough voice, have you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks for today. As you know, I'm Stuart, head of state. Michelle Kirk, who is our community engagement advisor, has been key in the access audit, and she is the wealth of knowledge of access audit. Unfortunately, she's not here today, so if there's any questions, me, Deb and Anthony will try and answer them, and if not, we'll see the answers. So, quickly, bit of a background information. So as you know, the authority is committed to ensuring its buildings are accessible to people who use them. Access audits influence the way that we upgrade and maintain our buildings, so they are very important. We had a previous audit in 2013, but that's been superseded over time with key legislation and changes in British standards. So the authority agreed to commission a new set of audits early part of last year, and this should be a report back on the information from them audits. So as way of introduction, we use the services of Wilkinson Cowan Partnerships to conduct the access audits of all the buildings, including all the operational fire stations, the current training development academy, and the Vesti 1, Vesti 5A and Vesti 5B. Wilkinson Cowan Partnership are a consultancy practice who specialise in access audits, and also a property surveying company in Merseyside. The The audits, so the intention of the audits was twofold. One was to appraise the defined areas of the existing accommodation and to assess the extent of the accessibilities to the facilities. And one was also to evaluate the inclusivity of our current facilities and identify any barriers or areas for improvements. And that was especially around faith rooms and mother and baby facilities within our stations. A few guiding principles that the consultants provided. So they put a series of audit codes against the findings, so it allows us to evaluate and prioritise the work. So they range from A, being very good, and all the way to D, which is they don't meet the current recommendations or regulations, and then a priority, just to try and help us evaluate that work. Oh, sorry.
We'll go back.
Yeah, please. So there's a couple of fundamental priorities related to the buildings. One was to do with public. It was made clear to the consultant that the public required access to the main entrance and to the community facilities. All visitors should be able to park, access the main entrance and be able to access offices, meeting facilities. You should have suitable toilet facilities when they're on site. And then employees are required to access all areas of the building to fulfil their duties. So it's quite unique. So we've got operational staff that need to go to the operational side of the buildings and other staff, support staff who work within the buildings in the office environments. So the findings of the audit, so following completion, the individual reports were produced for each building, which suggests a proposal to improve the current facilities in accordance with the Equality Act 2010. A total of 1,741 recommendations were put forward in all the reports, and a high-level estimated budget cost of £2.5 million has been suggested if all them works were to be completed. That's a very high-level budget cost based on building indices and the consultants' knowledge. A lot of work will still have to be done to price up the individual jobs and tender prices. And so there's a note there, footnote, just to say both are still subject to ongoing scrutiny and technical assessments by the estates team. Of them recommendations, 391 were classed as category B1, which was the most important ones. However, these still have to be considered by MFRS for factors such as the accommodation, as I said, used by only operational personnel, so you won't get visitors going into the operational side of the station. Fire safety, we probably want to put a more focus at making sure that fire safety is paramount and gold-plated standard in our buildings. Single-use gender-neutral facilities, work already planned within the capital bill programme, station closures because of the up-and-coming work, community groups, user requests, and also because we've got PFI buildings, so 7 of the stations are PFI. So I'll go through these in a bit more detail later on in the presentation. As you can see, the recommendations are very thorough. You know, he's gone right through the buildings all the way through, and as expected, we need to review them in terms of priority by the state and strategic performance officers. So you can see here demonstrating each building has a full access audit now. Every single item is being listed, priced, photographed. There's documents available now on the portal for staff to start looking at these recommendations. Part of the audit process, following the audits, after receiving them, we've developed a building accessibility reference group, which has been established to help assist us reviewing and prioritising the recommendations. The group will provide opportunities for staff with disabilities or with health conditions or other staff with an interest in the work to have an active involvement in planning the work, sharing their experiences, and also best practice as well. So a lot of the recommendations, whilst they would meet the standard, there's also then best practice as well from the user experience as well. So we don't want to just say what it says in the documents, it's going that next step and getting the user experience. And I'll show you some good examples of that in the later slides. The reference group has carried out site visits to the nearest fire station, which is St Helens, so it's learning from that. And they've also looked at the plans for the new training development academy and the fire station. So hopefully building on that learning from the nearest station, taking it into future stations. So proposed work schedule. So this is how we're proposing tackling these recommendations. So we currently have a 5-year capital programme. So the access audit recommendations will be considered and included in all future capital build projects. So Bromley, Speaking Garston, Old Swan, Kirby, Newtonley Willows, Lar and Wallasey are already planned for works within the next 5 years. So all the access recommendations will be reviewed and included within that work. Station building and closures. So all the recommendations again will be reviewed, and only the very urgent ones will be actioned at the locations that are currently identified to be closed. So Croxteth, TDA, Aintree, Vesty 5A and 5B will be closing in 2024 following the completion of the new TDA building. PFI stations, so we are in discussions with the PFI provider who will need to assess the recommendations, and where possible, then recommendations will be completed as part of the life cycle maintenance work. So the PFI contract is a 25-year project, and it already includes for costs for maintenance and life cycle work. So we'll try and incorporate any actions and recommendations within that plan that they currently have. Other locations, so the remaining properties will be prioritised in accordance to the risk and through the working group. And then local authorities, there was quite a few recommendations relating to work on the approach routes to the buildings, so footpaths leading to the station. Some of these are on land not owned by MFRA, so the works will need to be carried out by or in conjunction with the local authorities. So we will start to get into dialogue with the highways agencies, local authorities, to try and improve the approach routes to the stations and signage. So works so far, so we've implemented some work so far. So you can see coming down this corridor, we've painted it, and this is one of the benefits of the working group. So we were going to paint it a different colour, but following advice from members of the working group, we went a bit more radical with the colour down the corridor. But this is to do with visually impaired people, and it shows a definition between the carpet, the skirting boards and the wall, and then change the direction in the corridor. And you know, we could have painted it a standard colour, would have met the regulations, but the person probably most using the building with the visually impaired probably still would have suffered. So we've gone that one step further and made it work for that member of the staff as well, still meet regulations. Similar, we're starting to install light switch demarcations around light switches, so visually impaired people can't see them. So the years haven't been done yet, but you've got white on white, which is very hard to see the light switch. So we're starting to install stickers around light switches to make it easier for staff and highlight them. Accessible doors, so we put a new set of doors on the main office upstairs for wheelchair users, so you come out with a passenger lift and you can get into there a lot easier. Kitchens and brew hubs, you'll notice we've made all the kitchens and brew hubs in headquarters and on the newer stations now accessible, so they have no cupboards underneath the lower, so mobility issues can use the brew hubs. Installed a guide dog compound at headquarters as well, so we've got a member of the staff with a guide dog, so it just shows how we're looking at that, and we're looking at the same at St Helens as well. Heswall works were completed last year, last part of last year. This is a picture of how it used to look, and you can see now how we've altered the community and visitors' entrance to Heswall Fire Station. So we've got an automatic wider door at the front. We've got a disabled accessible car parking at the front with level access through to the station. This is a plan of the station, so you can see this was the car park and the footpath up to the station. We've now included for an accessible toilet facility. We've got a community room which is accessible on the ground floor, and we've got access to the gym that the community use. We've also then still segregated the operational side, but it still allows the operational staff to come through with the community. So it's quite good in that one. Again, St Helens build, you know, St Helens Station is probably one of our newest stations. It probably meets all of the accessibility building regulations, but there's still improvements and changes that following the working group that we still want to implement to make light switches easier, accessible, the access control, swipes easier to see for people, and improve lighting and wayfinder signage. We can see the new station, it's got individual light rooms, it's got unisex, gender neutral toilets, it's got a prayer room, so there's good facilities on the station. Again, this is Formby Law House. This is the old site, and this is how it looks now. And you can see we've introduced an accessible night room, so the staff at Formby, so because it's a low-level activity risk station, they can stay at the house with their family over a 4-day period. So we've made an accessible washroom so family members can use that if they're on shift. We've got accessible toilet for the general use. We've got wider doors into the building, level access, and this will be the same model as we're putting at Newton Willows, which we'll go on to in a minute. You see this quick slide just to show you we've got a 5-year capital programme that the authority approved in the February budget, so you can see the refurbishments of the station that I spoke about and where they are, and this is how we will now go forward and always assess the recommendations and drive them forward over the next 5 years. Currently in the approved capital programme, we've got the new TDA and Aintree Fire Station, and what we want to do is improve each station. Every time we build a new one, we try to improve it on the last one and take that learning through. We've now introduced a fully compliant changing places facility. It's got accessible areas to all staff, community groups, it's got welfare gardens, faith room, mother and baby facilities. It's got a multitude of different types of toilets, so gender neutral toilets, single use study rooms and wash facilities. The new designs have been through the access auditor, Liverpool City Council accessibility officer, and also the working group now have seen the plans and made comments. So we'll try and capture all the learning that we can in the design stages. Again, this is just an overview of the new TDA site, so you can see the changing places. So I'm talking about there's different toilets, there's different accessible toilets. Painting will be similar. Not sure if it will be the same colour as this corridor, but it will be contrasting different colour. On the first floor, we've also got a faith room at the top, and we've also got mother and baby facilities and a full passenger lift as well for visitors, because there's community lecture theatre at the far end of the building. Speaking Garston members, might recall you approved this, I think it was the last authority meeting or P&R last month. So extensive alterations to improve the facilities for staff and visitors. So this will be the new community room with an accessible toilet. Also, each of the rooms now, it's an old style dormitory for female dorm and a male dorm where they all sleep within the same room. They'll all be individual night rooms. There'll be a mother and baby facility, multi-faith room, single-use gender neutral showers and toilet facilities. That's at Speak and Old Swan. Newton Law, as I said, is the same as Formby. So again, this was approved 2 months ago, so work will be starting very soon, probably within a month of the new build at Newton. So it'll be similar to Formby, so you can see how we've already included for a lot of the recommendations for the accessibility audit. Future sites that still have to be sent to authority for approval, they are within the 5-year capital plan, but the actual tender prices and design hasn't been finalised, and these will come to authority this year. So this is Bromborough Fire Station. It's a very old fire station, but we are looking to put a new stair court on the end of the building to allow for the lift, allow for new community access, new community room, accessible showers, accessible gym, and then remodel the fire station to have single study rooms and single shower rooms, as well as better facilities for the staff. This is just showing the downstairs where we're introducing the core. And again, as outlined in the 5-year capital programme, Kirby and Wallasey stations will be refurbished in a similar way, and we will review the access recommendations and make sure they're included within the design. A specific budget has been allowed for access compliance, has also been included within the 5-year capital plan. It's therefore considered that the works required to comply with the access audit can be contained within the existing 5-year capital budgets. Any questions for Michelle?
Can I thank you for that?
I will, ready to record all my
Presentation.
questions.
Are there any questions?
Thanks. Thank you for that. It was really good presentation, and obviously look forward to the refurbishment in Wallasey and the area I represent. But just on that, and it's not a criticism at all, but the access, you talked about the public access, the access to the gym by members of the Royal Heartbeat was a long ongoing problem. Thanks to originally got it reopened again for us. But can we just make sure that we get our sort of consultation with the public users before we start doing any refurbishment? And if it's possible, and you can never tell if it was, can you, but if you can give, some type of hopefully projected time scale as to how long the work's going to take, it will just keep that harmony going really. But as I say, we're up and running again at the Heartbeat Gym, so that's fine, but it was tedious at times.
Yeah, I think COVID affected them. We've done work at Heswell at the same time, and West Kirby and shut as well. So there was a number of changes for Little Heartbeat that went through. I think Wallasey's fine now. I think we will. The plans, when we start to draw them up, will be going through station manager and consultation with all the users at the station.
One of the best fire stations I've ever been in, and when we were there not long ago, there was a partially side to that, so the this absolutely brilliant to see, and I can see with the red wall and then the skirtings, and I was pleased to see that the 7 PFIs, will you be doing the same with that? For the partially sighted people?
Yes,
we make Malverbites say, change the colour of that.
Yeah, as the life cycle, as painting works come off within that life cycle plan, we'll be saying to them, let's paint them a different colour. So it won't be a costume because it's already within the concept. If I said to them now, can we paint it this colour, it charges extra. So if we can tie it in with the year they're due to paint it, the paint won't be any different cost then. So that's how we will do it.
But it is a red wall, isn't it?
Quite right.
You think she's taken there today?
I think it's something to do with the same.
Not talk about that.
Dave, do you want to make some observations?
Yeah, thanks. I think one of the main issues of concern is because all our stations are open for community use, I think there's a liability issue that may come about if this way gets carried out but because of the works on certain stations, when we've done the evaluation, when I don't know how active some of these stations are, how sort of much use community organisations may use a particular station more than others. But I think that we need to, when a community organisation comes to request the use of any of the rooms, is there sort of a pro forma that we ask them to fill in?
Yes, so there's a document through legal where we ask the community group to fill that in. There's also the access audits will be available for the station manager, so we should be well aware of any issues, and we can make adaptations where we can. I think, within each district there should be a fully accessible site as well to offer an alternative as well, which may help in that. So I think that's how we do it. So I think when the community group approach the station manager, they fill out the form, they have the insurance, they do a site visit and a site induction and go through that process. So we should be aware of any issues at that time.
We have a hire and use service instruction, and within that, what we call the Schedule 1 is on those terms and conditions. But as part of that incorporates that you need to make us aware of any of your needs. For example, one of the fire stations is Prescott community rooms on the first floor. So obviously anybody sort of access needs, what would you do in a fire? We need to train you on the back tray chair. God forbid, that one of our fire stations would go on fire, that, you know, people are able to get out of the building, so that is part of that process when they try to be able to access the room.
Would we ever be at that stage where, depending on individuals' mobility, where we could say that these facilities are not sufficient for their use, and because of the liability problem that we could face, would we refuse an organisation to use the facility?
I'm not aware of any facilities that we aren't able to accommodate people.
Some of the old ones like Hainsey doesn't even have a community room, that's why we're getting rid of this as a community room. I'm not aware of any that would cause us. These are all improvements into where we have community rooms now. These are improvements and making it better for everyone to be able to use them. But I can take that back to themselves.
It's just in the event of
liability, and if someone challenged us and said, we can't get onto that station.
There should be an incentive of a disclaimer in that sense, because I think because you have a culture, I wouldn't like this to be out in the public domain and somebody then or some organisation or some individual may pull some trip or something or an injury within the complex within the station, and then the claim is put in against the authority. I would never hope that within we get that in that position, but I think we need to safeguard ourselves to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to make sure that, you know, the information that we require from them is accurate, and they sign that as it's accurate information that we're receiving from them, and that we're not going to basically call it out at any stage.
Some of that is also our health and safety management, how we manage our station. So in a way, the same way to staff, we want to make sure it's a safe place to work. Anybody who's visiting the site, whether it's a community user for a specific room or just someone that happens to be visiting the station that day, that's a safe place for them to be. We have those mechanisms through health and safety. We have the Oceans reporting system. We have either near misses to make sure that we can prevent anything happening. And we have certain groups and initiatives part of, for example, what we call the workplace review group, as our legal and health and safety, just to look at any incidents that may have occurred, to say what we learned from it, what can we do, just making sure that the workplace remains a safe place for visitors and staff.
Just to make sure that we're covered on every aspect. The other thing is, some of the work that needs to be carried out will require planning permission.
Some will, so some of the ones that have gone there, we've got to go through planning and speaking of Garston and Old Swan, we had to go through planning because we had to put some new windows in and different ramps and different systems.
So are those cash built in?
Yeah, so they're within the project. So when we come to the authority with the project value, they will be within that project.
The other thing is obviously with the PFI, I'm glad you said that there'll be no cost to the authority, so that will be built in within the.
We will, if not, it'll be within the capital. If it's something that's outside the PFI concept and the change that we have to make, it will be within the existing capital budget. So that's what I'm saying. We can contain it within our existing capital budget. So if we do make changes to the PFI station now, it comes out of our existing capital budget. But where we can, what I want to do is instruct them to paint the walls a different colour and then charge me. I want to build what they did in life cycle. So it's a bit of a negotiation and make them right as well. So if it isn't right, I'd be challenging them why it doesn't meet the current standard and then challenging them to put it right. Some items might be management decisions that we want to introduce on a PFI, so that the PFI station might not have a mother and baby facility. So if we want to introduce one and make a fundamental change, there will potentially be a cost. But the specific capital budget that we should be able to utilise to make that change if it was deemed necessary at that station.
And the other one would be the work that needs to be done on the outside of the stations, making the responsibility of local authorities. With this report, are the local authorities then compelled to do this work, or how will that work?
No, they're probably not, but I think that they will have a plan as well. So there might be tactile pavements on the pavement, so there might be bollards which are not to the current standards, so they might not have visible markings on the bollard. So it's probably trying to work with the council officers to try and see where it is within their plan and try and push it up their plan to try and find the best solution for it. Or we might have to then ask them, can we install it onto the bollards outside on pavements and things like that.
That was the next question, would we have to then?
Possibly, it's a bit of a, yeah. I need to understand how their plans work and what and that might be where we need to speak to the members and get your support and we'll say, how can we
After all, and what do you think is going to be the main local authority that you think that maybe stations sit? That's going to be the main problem.
I could never comment on that, David. I can't believe that. I wouldn't want to be.
Which member would you like to speak to?
You got some time next week.
Yeah, I think you're quite right, Dave. Planning is a minefield, which we're all well aware of, and all our authorities, of course. So are there any other observations?
Just a declaration of interest that I'm on some challenge planning.
Okay.
So now you know what to go to.
Okay, are there any other questions? Thank you once again for that. It was an excellent report and excellent discussion. Thank you. So I'm assuming we can agree the recommendations. Agreed? We're down to agenda item 5, which is Leah. Take us through that.
So, this agenda is the standing item, the scrutiny forward work plan. You'll see quite a lot of grays on there, which is good news. I would be able to try to complete this plan with moving into next municipal year. We are looking to schedule a date with the officers from all the relevant areas to speak to yourself to agree a new scrutiny forward work plan. However, if there's anything you want to make a note of in between now and then that we can look to put on the new plan, or even we know who to contact for, from an officer point of view to speak to you more and see if it's something you want to put on a new plan, then please just say. Obviously, one of the things I'll be recommending moving forward will be the fleet vehicles and alternative fuels. So our work is progressing with officers. Obviously, we're waiting until we've had that more developed to be able to bring back to members more fully. But if there's any other issues you'd like to flag at this point, please let us know, or just email Democratic Services.
Okay, yeah, I mean, Leah is quite right. If any issues that any members have on the committee that they want to scrutinise, no matter what, because it is our remit to scrutinise, just get in touch with Leah, get in touch with myself and Linda as well, you know, if there isn't a problem. And I think, as Leah said, we've accomplished quite a lot, because we are still relatively new committee, are still in the great scheme of things. So I'll be after committee. Oh, sorry, David.
No, it's just two observations really on the things that we've actually deal with most recently. That was the HMRC report on the values and culture of the secure service across the whole country. I know the chief has responded on behalf of it, but I think because the policy diversity and inclusion is on the agenda anyway, but we need to make sure that this is included and this is going to get feedback to make sure that this is not going to be prominent within the scrutiny, within the policy, because when we've read the report, some of the behaviour is totally unacceptable. And I think the culture, the culture that this was going on, it needs to go, we need to do what we can to ensure that as a service, anybody who works within the service, this type of behaviour is tolerable. It's just, there's no excuse. In this report. So I think that we need to make sure that we look at this at the earliest possible opportunity and, take a presentation of, the feedback from the other thing is the staff survey. Because it links in, I suppose, with what's going on with the diversity to the agenda. We recently had a presentation on the staff survey, response from the staff survey. I think once we get the detail of the action plans that we need to address, because it was a poor response, but it was in previous years. There's probably reasons for that, but even so, it's picked up some issues that we need to address, we need to scrutinise, we need to draw down exactly what the issues are and what we're going to do as an action plan to make sure these over and we address some of these concerns. So it is important that the authority take a lead in this and we use it at every possibility, whether we do station visits, whether we do staff engagement days. Anything that we do as members get involved with, I think we should be taking the lead on this, as well as obviously the chief and senior officers. I think as elected members of this authority, to make sure that the message goes out there quite strongly that we want to improve because we value all our staff and work to protect our staff, environment that we work but we also there's certain behaviours that are not acceptable. So we need to make sure that we get this right since once lifetime opportunity in a sense, because when you read that report and highlight this report, it makes you feel ashamed of certain things, doesn't it? Hopefully it's not as bad. Like any sort of behaviour like that is bad. But there's probably, I've never witnessed it, I know you've been involved with it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's all bad. As I say, we need to make sure that we send a strong message out there. We are there to support staff and there to do what we can in any mechanism that people are available to us. But we need to raise the profile of us and we need to have a direction where the service will go.
Absolutely, and that will go back to members and into the full authority in June. Report is going on the staff survey and the actions and process thereafter as well. I'm sure the same, particularly with the pitch and anything else, any outcomes there and will be reviewed as well with the members.
Thank you for that, Dave. Are there any other questions or observations on the item 12?
Just one, sorry. It's just, you've got the sustainability aspects in terms of fuels and liquids, which is sort of broad, maybe thinking about net zero for our buildings, what carbon reduction that can be, because obviously with further developments and all the rest of it. So it's just to look at what the carbon aspects are of the authority in itself, in terms of the building, in terms of it, but also staffing, it's sort of looking at the scope 1, 2, 3 issues as well. So just to sort of broaden the sustainability and net zero aspects.
So no more further observations. Okay. Right, that's the end of the meeting. The date of the next meeting will be after the AGM in June, of course, and the dates will be confirmed. As the chair, I think that this is probably the last committee meeting